Today's date is November 16, 2017. This is Yalak once again, and my lesson today is Theological Menticide. And this is another lesson in the New Testament is Fake series. For those interested, I have been working on my new lesson or series dealing with the name of the Most High. I know some people have inquired about that, so once it's ready, I'll let you know. I'm doing some editing right now. But for this lesson, Theological Menticide, let's begin. If I read from Ezekiel chapter 5 and verse 6, this is what it says. And she hath changed my judgments into wickedness more than the nations, and my statutes more than the countries that are round about her. For they have refused my judgments and my statutes, they have not walked in them. Right away, that gives me an understanding that all the nations of the earth, or the whole world, received the laws of the Creator. This is something that you don't find building up as clearly, as neatly, and plainly in the scriptures the way that you find the law being given to Israel, which is why in some of my other videos dealing with Adam and Eden and the serpent, that I've been questioning certain things in the scriptures. And maybe that's only because of the way it was presented to us and not that it's missing from the scriptures. So the fault may not lie in the scriptures, but in the people who taught the scriptures to the world. Because something like this here in Ezekiel 5:6 is letting me know that the Creator is saying that the world got his laws. And in one of my recent videos dealing with, I think Abraham, Noah rather, how a covenant was made with the whole earth through Noah and his sons coming off the boat and their wives, that a covenant was made with everyone coming off the boat. So the whole earth got some kind of covenant. So it's clear that the whole earth has to have some laws about the Creator. Otherwise, people in general who say they're atheists wouldn't have certain feelings about what is right and wrong. There's some kind of covenant that's somewhere there. Adam must have got stuff in Eden as well. So there are laws on the earth in general, but Israel seems to have gotten some more detailed or fine-tuned kind of instructions. But this is a thought that I'm looking into some more. But he says Israel refused his judgments and statutes and not walked in them. And they rejected his statutes more than the other countries that are round her or round about her. More than. So it seems that Israel did more wickedly than the others. It's kind of like they perfected evil, might I say. That could be because they got some more fine-tuned stuff. And how could you turn your back on all of that instruction from the Creator or what? But Israel was really far gone. So when I look at this choice for this Calvary Messiah with people who say they are Israelites, when no one in the Torah believed in anything that happened on Calvary, it makes me wonder how someone can obey scriptures like Jeremiah 6:16 to return to the Most High and to return to statutes and commandments and so on. How can you return to a Calvary that was never something that the Israelites were dealing with in those scriptures and practices that you're supposed to return to? That is because the mind of the Israelite has been destroyed, it has been taken down, it has been corrupted, and it does not function properly anymore. Now, when you deal with Theological Menticide. I'm just trying to show that the breakdown of the mind and the coming away from the Creator according to his instructions to Israel is showing a theological breakdown of the mind of the Israelite in terms of moving away from the instructions given through Moses and others it was revealed to in the scriptures. We look at the definition for menticide. It says it is the systematic effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and beliefs. And that clearly happened. People who walk away from Calvary with the message of the cross have their beliefs or values from the Old Testament statutes and commandments weakened, and in some cases just plain out destroyed. I say weakened because some profess to still keep and obey those instructions but cling to Calvary, where others just leave those instructions fully and say, no, it's just a full New Testament understanding from this point on in my life. So menticide is dealing with an effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and beliefs. So you no longer, theologically now, you no longer cling to just the Torah instructions alone. You've got something else because the Torah instructions have been weakened or destroyed. Destroyed as by the use of prolonged interrogation, drugs, torture, etc., and to induce radically different ideas. Now, the silly ones out there who try to force you to believe in this Calvary doctrine so that they can build a stronger deceptive group of the New Testament for Hebrew Israelites to be snared by, they have radically moved themselves into a different idea than what was found in the writings of the Torah. Their different or radically new idea is based on Calvary. The listener has to understand that it cannot be denied that Calvary is a radically different message than what is found in the Torah instructions, statutes, and commandments. That cannot be denied. And that is why people such as myself who teach these kinds of lessons about how fake Calvary is just cannot be seen as being wrong. The best effort of those on the other side who are defending Calvary is just to quote many New Testament scriptures in a futile attempt to show the superiority of Calvary over something that it cannot be properly and sanely measured up with in the Torah. Their best attempt is to throw in a couple other verses from the Old Testament and to show how it has been fulfilled in the New Testament. But so many people have smashed all those teachings for years and years and years. And when I first came into this Torah understanding and later on saw the deception of Calvary, it was shocking to me to understand that much of the more upfront ones, not all the teachers who are defending Calvary now, but much of the more upfront ones who are teaching this understand that Calvary is a deception. But somehow they have locked themselves into some kind of, New Testament Christian hell-bound pathway that make them feel that they just cannot leave that pathway. So they're walking down to their Christian New Testament hell in their mind because they know they're teaching something that is destructive to not just Hebrews, but to all peoples on the earth. Because Calvary is destruction. And if you don't believe me, it destroyed the man who died on that middle cross. You're going to tell me, oh, but he raised up, the resurrection. Was he ever destroyed at a certain point? Of course, because why would there need to be a resurrection of his body if his body was not destroyed by death? So as I've pointed out before, the thinking mind that's working properly will understand that your God should never suffer destruction at any point. So if your God dies and he has to rely on his so-called father to bring him out of that destruction and renew him, he is not your God. So menticide goes on now to mean the destruction or undermining of a person's mental independence in order to alter his or her beliefs. And you are wrested to the ground by overwhelming amounts of stupid verses from the New Testament, written by people who were not Israelites, conceived in the minds of Romans, who partnered with people who knew the Torah in order to produce this book that Moses and Elijah and Jeremiah never heard about, never read, and showed by their writings that they would not believe in if they were to read them, these New Testament writings. So you are taken over by these people who remove or change your mind by altering your beliefs in the Creator. And this has happened over different times and for different reasons. The judgments, because our forefathers chose to walk away from the commandments, put us in places where we got more of what we chose in the first place. The altering of our beliefs. We didn't want the Most High, we wanted other gods. So the going after those other gods altered our beliefs by taking on their teachings. And the proponents of this Calvary doctrine continue to alter the beliefs of the Israelite. The origin of menticide from Wiktionary.org. Menticide is from the Latin's mens, which means mind, or mentalis for mental. So basically, it's just menticide, the mens right there is just dealing with the mind. And sida meaning killer. So, killer by analogy to homicide, genocide, etc. And this term, menticide, was coined in the 1950s. So basically, menticide then, coming from the Latin, means mind killer. And that is what has happened. The Israelite who is clinging to Calvary, cursing Christians that they've got the law and that they're Israelites, has had their mind killed by the same Calvary that the Christian they curse believes in as well. But because the Christian believes in an A version and the Israelites say, I believe in a B version, then you two believing in different versions of the same Calvary, you fight and you clash and you curse the Christian that they are heading for destruction because they believe in this Calvary Messiah and whatever his teachings are, and they're deluded and so on. When you being deluded yourself cannot see that your mind is also destroyed because you've had your mind altered so that you are believing in the same Calvary Messiah and message as the Christian you curse. But you tell them that they are headed for destruction, and you can't see that you right now are heading to your own destruction. Because if the Most High kicked out people out of Israel, the nation, because they chose other gods, he's saying, I don't want you around me. I don't even want you in your land. You cannot remain here, so get out. That means that he's not going to bring back people into the land who are still choosing other gods, because he already showed by his great judgment that you cannot live in the land with me. You cannot be partaker of my blessings. So how are you going to return with a different, altered kind of mind that causes you to cleave to another God? Theological menticide. Or theologically, the mind of the Israelite has been killed by these strange teachings that the Most High did not command. So ask your teacher, your Hebrew Israelite teacher. Tell him you heard this lesson online called Theological Menticide. Ask him what about it. and you will hear the silly, stupid responses and the silly choices of New Testament verses mingled with a spattering of Old Testament misunderstood verses. And they're going to teach you a quick lesson on that from a mind that has been mentally altered to reject the commandments of the Most High. Let's read another scripture or two. Lamentations 4 and verse 1. How is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every tree. Obviously, this is a lamentation about the demise of Jerusalem. How things had gone downhill, destroyed, and so on. Things are broken down. Because they chose to walk in another path because of an altered mind that altered the way they should think about the Most High and altered the way they should think about other gods, so that they thought it was okay to go after other gods. The Most High brought some judgment. How has the gold become dim? And that's like the glory of the Israelite. It has also become dim. So here Israelites saying, instead of saying, let us return to the Most High, because their glory became dim, their mind became dim, their mind became destroyed and became altered. They don't say, let us return. They say, let's go to something new. We've got something new. It is Calvary. That's a destroyed mind. Let's look now at Jeremiah 2:11, final verse. How the nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods. But my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit. Listen to this little write-up from this commentary. And they're talking about that same verse there, but they're talking about a couple other verses surrounding it as well. Israel is perversely unmindful of her salvation history and has defiled her inheritance. The priests do not understand their own law tradition. The rulers, that is the aristocracy, have transgressed, literally rebelled against the Most High's guidance. The prophets allow themselves to be inspired by Baal rather than the Most High. What other nation has ever deserted its own gods, however worthless they are, to adopt those of another people? But this is what Israel did. And you're telling me Calvary is not the adoption of another God, of another thought system, of another theological thought system? And you cannot see that your teachers in their finest Hebrew garments with many years of Hebrew Israelite tradition are duping you? Because someone looks well put together, they are well organized. That just means they're well organized because they've got a lot of support, a lot of people around them who have been duped as well to support them, or just a lot of organizing because they've been doing it for many years. And anything you do for many years, you eventually work out a pattern or a system. You can look good when you're doing it. Let's say you started some store or business, and you just got the smallest little stuff, or maybe you're just starting it out from your living room. And then you realize, okay, I need the house, use some more. So you put the stuff in the garage and people come there and, you got the little stuff for your cars everywhere, the bottles and whatever all around, but your supplies are still there and people come and they purchase. After you go a little while, you get another space and, some whatever, until you end up building up yourself to the point where you've got your own storefront, right? So with time, you grow and you look more organized, you look more presentable to the public. That's all these teachers of deception have done. They've taken many years at the stuff, and now their Calvary teaching looks like it's blessed by the Most High, because now they look well organized there in many states or many cities. But it doesn't mean Calvary is right. That's because they're just laws in the universe, the law of sowing and reaping and so on. You pour into something, you put your time into something, you're going to reap out of it. You're going to grow. You're going to get benefit out of it. He makes the rain to fall on anyone. If you work hard, you get stuff out of it and so on. So if you work hard, even at deception, you're going to build up on it. You're going to even make money from it. And so you can look nice and get your own building and say, the Most High has blessed us, when he's not blessing that because it is right. It's just that the rain falls on everyone. So to close it here, notice here, he's saying the priests don't understand their own law tradition. The rulers, the aristocracy, to read it again, have transgressed. They literally have rebelled against the Most High's guidance. And their prophets have allowed their own selves, like these teachers today, to be inspired by Baal. They have allowed themselves. So you're telling me the prophets, the leaders, the teachers, the priests, and so on, these people have all corrupted themselves and chosen a different path. And they are going to give you the rightness of Calvary? Can you pour clean water out of a dirty vessel? Can you? If they did not correct themselves, and we know they did not because they entered into captivity for punishment for being unclean in their thinking, in their theology, in their practices, in their rituals and so on, by removing themselves from the commandments. They went into captivity being unclean in all those ways, suffering from a theological menticide, a destroyed mind. How can that destroyed, unclean mind give you the cleanness of salvation on Calvary? How can that be? Ask your teacher about this. Ask your pastor. Ask your leader. Ask your more about this. And don't take bullshit for an answer. Let it remain with them, but you walk away and let them keep their theological bullshit.